Hey, hello there. Thank you so much for stopping by to check out this video. If this is your first time to stop by my channel, this is Run with Angela, and I'm Angela. I'm super happy that you stopped in. I am filming here while in quarantine. Yeah, you can hear my husband coughing in the background. I'm on day number 10 of quarantine as I recover from COVID-19. So on this channel, I love to talk about all things running, health, and fitness. So today I'm going to share with you my story of recovering from COVID-19. As I just stated, I'm on day number 10 of quarantine and I'm feeling very well. Yeah, as you can see, I still have a little bit of a cough. So I did a lot of the recording for this video on day number 8 of quarantine. What I really want to share with you at the very beginning of this video are the two main things that really helped me in trying to recover from COVID-19. I think the two biggest things that have helped me to get through this is having a vaporizer, sleeping with it at night, using it during the day. It's helped to keep my nose moist, my throat moist. It's been really great. You can get those on Amazon, Walmart. It's really great. Obviously, you can't run to Walmart if you have COVID, but you can have someone get it for you or pay to have it delivered. And the other thing that's been a huge help is ibuprofen. I did use Tylenol a little bit, and I know early on with COVID they were saying that they thought ibuprofen could possibly complicate COVID symptoms, but I don't think they believe that now because my doctor said that that was one thing I could use. Ibuprofen. He recommended ibuprofen or Tylenol. He also recommended that I take an adult aspirin once a day. I didn't ask him why, but I'm guessing it's probably because aspirin tends to like thin your blood. And with COVID, you know, a lot of people are just very stationary. They sleep a lot, and you know, you become prone to blood clots when you don't get up and move. And so their recommendation also was that I would get up and down, you know, walk around the house every hour, you know, cough, take deep breaths, you know, keep your lungs moving so that nothing settles in there, and you know, keep your blood flowing so that you don't get blood clots. So let me share with you my COVID story. It started January 1st. What a great way to start out 2021. I woke up in the morning without having any previous symptoms the day before, nothing. I was completely fine on New Year's Eve. We had planned just for the two of us. We were just trying to be careful because of COVID. And so my husband and I, neither one of us had really been all that many places other than to stores and to church. So I woke up on Friday morning, New Year's Day, with a little bit of a sore throat and just felt kind of sinusy. So I thought, you know, I need to take an allergy pill. So I took an allergy pill, and it really didn't do any good. I mean, I didn't notice anything that day. My symptoms got a little worse as the day went on. I just kind of got dizzy in my head. So then the next day, which was Saturday the 2nd, I woke up with my symptoms were a little worse that day. I took another allergy pill. It didn't do anything. I developed body aches, a slight headache. I did have a slight fever that day. It was like, let me see, I wrote it down. It was 99.32. So, you know, not a horrible fever. At this point on Saturday, especially after I had already taken another dose of allergy medicine, it was Zyrtec that I took. It's an over-the-counter medicine, you know, that I take for allergies and sinus. But I was suspecting COVID at this point. So I told my husband, I said, you know, you're going to have to stay home from church tomorrow because if this is COVID, then, you know, you're going to be a carrier. So we knew that that's what we needed to do, and my aches and pains got a little bit worse. I've developed more of a cough. The cough really sounded worse than it actually felt. My voice sounded horrible. I sounded like I was getting laryngitis. I'm going right now to get tested for COVID. My doctor thinks that I might have it. If I talked for very long, I felt like I was going to lose my voice. And you can still hear now that I sound sick, but my voice sounds so much better than it did. At this point, I also was feeling very fatigued. I had this stubborn phlegm in the back of my throat that I just couldn't do anything about. The only thing that remotely helped was gargling with salt water. I was even starting to develop some brain fog by that point. I was just very tired. I just wanted to sit and rest. So then on Sunday morning, I woke up feeling a little bit worse. Just all the symptoms that I described were just a little more intense on Sunday. Also on Sunday, my husband started showing his first symptoms. He had the same type of symptoms, fatigue, brain fog, kind of dizzy in the head, stuffy. His voice never sounded quite as bad as mine did, though. However, he had really rough body aches, a really bad headache. He's still having some of those symptoms. So I would definitely say that days 2 and 3 were definitely the worst for me. On Monday morning, I had started to feel a little bit better. The brain fog was not as intense. The body aches were minimal at that point. There was no headache, no sign of a fever. On Monday, I was able to do a FaceTime call with my doctor. And so he had some different recommendations for me. I said earlier about taking, certain medicines I could take, Ibuprofen, Tylenol, recommended that I take aspirin every day. He told me that if I started having a hard time breathing, that I was to go to the emergency room. And then he scheduled me to get tested later that day. Looks like there's quite a little line. You can't really see it, but there's a line here in the front of the building for COVID testing. So it looks like I've got about maybe 8 cars at least in front of me. So that evening, I got my COVID test. They also tested me for the flu, which obviously came back negative. But the test came back really quick. It was just a couple days, and I had my results that were obviously COVID positive. So I had my COVID test on Monday, and then it was Wednesday morning that they actually called to say that I tested positive. So I did get the results very quickly. And when I went to do my test, it was a drive up, and I just actually went to my doctor's office, and a nurse came out and did my test, and there were maybe 8 to 10 people in front of me that got tested. Since I've heard this in many places on the internet, my doctor, the nurse, as well as those from the health department, they all recommended that I get up every day, like on the hour, and make sure that I walked around, that I would breathe deep. There's actually a breathing exercise you can do where you inhale very deeply. And you hold it for about 5 seconds, and then you let it out. And they said even if it hurts to do it, do this exercise anyway, because it's going to keep your lungs moving. It's going to help to fight the virus. My husband then on, I believe it was Thursday, got a phone call saying that he tested positive as well. So he is 2 days behind me. My quarantine is over. It's 12 days of quarantine, so my quarantine is over on the 12th. His is over on the 14th. Believe me, I have some plans already for my first day out of quarantine. We did go outside to get some fresh air at one point, and we were outside for about 10 minutes. It was in the 30s. It felt really cold when I was breathing in the air. And so I took my scarf and kept putting it over my mouth. Just so that I wasn't getting that direct cold. Now, this is a running channel, so I'm a runner, and just on Christmas Day, we had snow here. It was 19 degrees. I jogged 2 miles in 19 blowing, snowing degrees. And I was fine because my lungs they're conditioned for that. And I didn't have a problem at all. Here I am in 30 some degrees, walking around at a very slow pace and covering my mouth with my scarf. And by the time we came inside the house, I had a little bit of a cough that night that I developed. I had already had a cough, but it had diminished. And, it kind of brought that cough back up. So, and my husband was the same. He didn't really feel the greatest after we were out in the cold. So we were thinking that being out in the cold would be great, especially for me. I thought I would just feel great being out there. But, it could possibly have been a little bit of a setback. So you have to be careful. And as we've seen, reports all over and hearing from different friends who have had COVID, my doctor told us this. The health department said that, once your quarantine is over, you might still have some symptoms. You might still cough. Your voice might sound still not right. And that doesn't mean that you're contagious. It just means that your body is still recovering. They said that by the time we've reached 12 days that our body would have immunity. So it just goes to show that, it does take some time to recover from this. I will say that several years ago, I'm guessing around 6 years ago, I had bronchitis and it was terrible. The cough was terrible. I was sick for like 7 weeks. I couldn't get rid of the cough. I'm a singer and a musician, and I was able to play the piano, but I could not sing for over 7 weeks. It was so bad. I lost vocal range. It was really terrible. Another symptom that I do want to talk to you about is that on Monday night, I did lose taste and smell. It was very, very odd. So let me tell you exactly how this happened. It was like I had my sense of smell 1 minute and the next minute it was just gone. It was really odd. But I had just put some lotion on my hands, strawberry scented lotion, and I could smell it perfectly fine. And I'm talking not even 15 to 20 minutes later, I went out into the living room and I grabbed my eucalyptus oil and I took the lid off and I tipped it up and I, put some right here. And I couldn't smell it. And I had already set the oil down on the table. I reached over and I grabbed that oil and I was like, what did I just put on my nose? And I'm like, eucalyptus, and I can't smell it. Oh no. Now, this was before I had gotten my test back. And so as soon as I lost my sense of taste and smell, I knew that I had COVID. But it was the craziest experience. So I hurried up, I set my eucalyptus oil down on the table, ran into the kitchen, and I grabbed some vinegar, some apple cider vinegar with a mother. And my husband drinks it all the time, because it's just healthy for you. I don't drink it that often because I can't hardly stand to drink it. And I grabbed that vinegar, dumped it in a cup, and took a little swig of it. And I'm telling you, I could not taste it. I could feel the strongness of the vinegar. That's all I know how to say. Maybe the acidity. I could not taste it. I could not smell it. It was the weirdest thing. And so from Monday night until now, this is Friday night, I lost my taste and smell. Now, I can take this bottle of eucalyptus and wave it under my nose, and I can barely catch a little bit of a scent. So I think that my taste and smell is returning. Actually, last night I took a bite of an apple and I could taste it a little bit. So there is a little bit of hope that my sense of taste and smell is finally returning, because it's no fun. I mean, you sit around thinking to yourself like, what texture sounds good to me, because nothing I eat can I taste. And I remember it was really weird. I said to my husband, I'm like, cream of wheat and a piece of bread just sounds like a good texture right now. And I was like, oh my gosh, did I really just say that? It sounds like a good texture right now. It was just really funny. And then I was sauteing green peppers, onions, and mushrooms, and that has just a smell to it that I love. It's one of my favorite healthy veggies to saute. And it was just so weird that I'm sitting there sauteing it, and I literally thought to myself, what is wrong with these peppers? Like, they don't even have a scent. And it was like within seconds I realized, no, you can't smell anything. So it was just really odd. But thankfully, like I said, it is returning. Believe it or not, there are actually videos where they tell you to get different oils and smell them. And it kind of retrains and, you know, brings back your sense of smell, because there are people that don't get their sense of smell back for weeks or months. You know, as I said earlier, I'm certainly not a doctor. I don't even have any medical background at all. But I do want to say that in some of my own research, I have found that vitamin D and zinc are very, very good to help your immune system recover from COVID. But I want to really encourage you, if you're watching this and you have not had COVID yet, you need to start taking vitamin D and zinc now, because it's an immune system that already has good doses of zinc and vitamin D that will fight against COVID, because once COVID enters your system, it's a little more difficult to then build your immune system against it. And so, but they did say that, you know, what they used on the president when he had COVID was they used injections of vitamin D and zinc. So what I did was I started doubling up on my vitamin D once I knew that I had the COVID symptoms. And I have taken zinc, although sometimes I don't react very well to zinc. It kind of makes me a little bit nauseous. So just know that. And also, you can, if you take too much zinc, it can cause a copper deficiency. So just be careful of taking too much of it over a prolonged period of time. I think the recommended dose might be 40 milligrams. Like I said, don't quote me on that. Research, do some research before you start taking things. Talk to your doctor. The other thing too is that vitamin D and zinc, what they do is it not only strengthens your immune system and helps it fight, but it also helps recognize COVID-19, that it is a virus that it needs to fight against. And so, you know, it doesn't just strengthen it, it actually helps it recognize the enemy, basically. I'm going to actually post a couple video links down below in the description box so that you can go down there and, you know, take a look at these videos if you want, that where some doctors are actually talking about these things. Also, there is something called Sombra Cool Therapy. When I lost my ability to smell and taste, my eucalyptus oil really didn't work anymore to open up my, you know, when I had a stuffy nose, it didn't help to open me up. And so what I did was I took this Sombra cream, it's actually for sore muscles, and the Cool Therapy, and I rubbed it right here below my nose. It was the only thing that would give me some kind of vapors and kind of help open me up a little bit. Actually, my husband said it worked really great on his achy, sore muscles. So just to show you the difference in symptoms, you know, my husband had extreme headaches and body aches, although he did not really have a lot of problems with his voice, it getting so scratchy, and he did not lose his taste or smell. For me, my body aches and headache only lasted a couple of days, but then I did lose taste and smell and had a very scratchy sounding voice. However, I will say that my symptoms were a little less intense than his for the most part. And just for sake of information, I am 46 years old. I'm very active. I eat very healthy. In fact, I did a 21-day health challenge, and I did that on purpose so that it would help me to avoid some of the sugary treats and snacks that we have around the holidays. I did not do any baking at all this year, and was very careful on what I ate for that 21-day challenge. I was using a protein powder by Unicity. It was Vanilla Unicity Complete, where you make a shake once or twice a day, and you can add all kinds of healthy greens in there. And so for 21 days, I was getting a fill of just nutrition every single day. And I know that played a huge part in me not having such extreme COVID symptoms. And for that, I'm so grateful. So how in the world did I end up getting COVID-19? Well, to be quite honest, there's no way to really prove where you got COVID from because you can catch it anywhere. But to be quite honest, I've been home a lot. I can tell you for the year 2020, I have been home more than I have spent time at home, consistently in probably a decade, even 2 decades, because I'm a busy person. I'm always on the go. And, because of COVID, I've been home all the time. So here we are, we're going into the holidays and we're being a little extra careful because, we've got some family that we don't want to carry the virus to. So we're being very careful. We're, faithfully attending church. And we made it through Christmas and no one contacted COVID. And so here we are on New Year's Eve, getting ready to celebrate the new year. My husband and I were planning a quiet evening at home, just the two of us. We had canceled any celebrations with the church just for that very reason, just to be careful with COVID. And don't you know, I woke up New Year's Day with COVID symptoms. So I really don't know where I got it. The only places I had been was the store and church. Since no one at church has had COVID for the last month, I think it's safe to assume that I got COVID somewhere else. My husband then caught it from me, and one other guy in our church did get COVID from us. He is currently in quarantine and recovering as well. So I did want to share with you a list that I made here of things that I really felt had been a huge help for me in battling COVID-19. I mentioned a couple of these things earlier. A vaporizer, we slept with that at night, used it during the day. Eucalyptus oil. I like to rub eucalyptus oil right there. That is until I couldn't smell anymore. And then I have this other product that I actually used, and I mentioned it earlier. It's called Sombra. I don't know if you can see it very well. The lighting is not allowing me to show it to you, but I will post it in the description down below. It's called Sombra Cool Therapy because I believe they also have heat therapy. So this was Sombra Cool Therapy. You can order that on Amazon, I believe. I was able to get some vapors from that even when I lost taste and smell. So a heated blanket, rice pillows. My husband loved using the rice pillows for his achy muscles. Both of us took ibuprofen and Tylenol. It helps with fever. It helps with the body aches. That was the biggest reason for taking it. I had, more advanced body aches for probably 2 days. And then I had mild body aches for another day. And I've been thankful to not have any more body aches. The nurse at my doctor's office actually recommended that we could try Mucinex. We never did try it though. A steaming hot shower is a great thing. Getting up, moving around, stretching. And you know what? The number one thing that helped us is prayer. You got to keep your mind in the right place. You have to know that the majority of people do not die from COVID. The majority of people recover. And you have to believe that you are amongst those that will recover. And, God has you in his hands. And, we prayed for health and, that God would strengthen us and get us through. And we are thankfully recovering very well. So I just want to drive this home. I've mentioned it already a couple times about making sure that you get up, you move around, walk around the house, breathe deeply. It's vitally important that you keep your lungs working because this virus wants to get down in those lungs and really get a hold of it. And so one of the things that you can do without obviously overdoing it, I'm not talking about getting up and doing cardio, but you just want to cough a little bit on purpose, breathe deep and hold it. You might even feel like it hurts a little bit. I will say there were a couple times I felt kind of some pain in my chest, just for very brief moments, but it was there, and it was when, I was doing the breathing. And so I just want to encourage you to fight against it with making sure that you're getting up and moving around. What was recommended to me was every hour. So, there are people that are laying in bed and sleeping for hours and hours. I think it's okay to do that here and there, but you really need to be getting up and walking around to make sure that you keep your lungs moving and that you keep your blood flowing so that you avoid blood clots. It's also going to help you to avoid developing pneumonia in those lungs. Finally, there's one more thing that I want to add to this. Most of us realize that sugar and high fructose corn syrup are no good for us. But I just want you to know that specifically with COVID, high fructose corn syrup is not your friend, because it will actually hinder your immune system from being able to fight. And so you really want to make sure that you're eating healthy during this time, before you get COVID especially. And while you are battling COVID, you want to make sure that you are feeding your body things that are really going to help your immune system to fight this virus. So if you have any advice, if you've had COVID and you have advice for others that may be on here watching this video that are battling COVID and you've had something that worked for you, feel free to post it down below. That would be great. If you have any questions, post them down below. I will do my best to answer them. And again, don't forget to check the description box, because I will post some of the videos and the different information that I've talked about. Okay, everyone, I just want to thank you so much for stopping by my channel, Run with Angela. Thank you for checking out this video. Please go down below and check out the links in the description box. Give me a big thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel. God bless you, and may He keep you in good health.